Hello, Fiona here. So today we're going to do part 2 of the cognitive distortions. We'll start with mental filtering, which is the tendency to ignore the positives and only hyper focus on the negatives. An example I can give is, for example, if you're doing a presentation and you're presenting three concepts or three ideas and people really love two of them, and then one of them guys are like, well, no, this one might not be applicable in this situation, or maybe we can hold off on it and do it at another time. When you leave that meeting and you're reviewing the meeting in your mind, the only thing that you're hyper focusing on is that negative aspect, the one idea that people said will put a pin in it. That's mental filtering, because then you're not paying any attention to the two ideas that people loved and were happy to engage on. The second distortion is discounting the positives, which is closely related with mental filtering. However, in this one, you are unable to acknowledge the positives. So if someone came up to you after that meeting and they said to you, oh my God, I really loved how you presented, you are really engaging, we loved the ideas that you brought up. And in your mind, you're just thinking how, no, it could have been better. Maybe someone else would have done it in a different way and would have done it in a much better way. So you're unable to acknowledge that it actually went well. Sometimes it can look like attributing good things that happen in your life to luck. And then when something negative happens, it's like you're the one who's to blame because you're insufficient, you're unworthy in some way. So that's what discounting the positives looks like. Then the third is should statements. And what this looks like is all the should statements we hear people saying. If you're a certain age, you should be having a certain kind of career. You should be earning a certain amount of money. Maybe you should be married, or you should have kids, all these things. And these should statements are usually a reflection or an internalization of family values, family expectations, cultural expectations, societal expectations. And the reason that they're believed or thought to be distortions is because individuals are unique, right? So people will achieve different milestones at different times. People will go through their development in different ways. We have different interests, different talents, different hopes and dreams, different strengths and capacities. So it's quite illogical to imagine that just an age should be the one consideration or the one factor that determines how someone's life should look like, right? Then the fourth one that we look at today is emotional reasoning. And emotional reasoning is the false belief that your emotions are the truth about reality, like how you feel about a certain situation or a certain person is a reliable indicator of reality when it's not, because it's very possible, if we go back to the example for the meeting, if you apply the mental filtering to reviewing that situation and you're only looking at the negative, then the feeling you're going to have is bad, right? You're going to have negative feelings coming up within you. And so if someone was to come and ask you how that meeting went, and then you remember the way that you feel, or you use the way that you feel to give an account of the meeting, and you say that the meeting didn't go so well, that it went bad, and people didn't like that one idea that you presented, then you're presenting a false reality to that individual, because there are two other things that people really enjoyed. There was someone who came up to you and said that they enjoyed your presentation, but because you have that bad feeling, then now you've you have what? Interpreted, yes, that the meeting was bad. So emotional reasoning, the way you can be able to counter this is, number one, to have an objective person that you can turn to whenever you're feeling a bit conflicted about how something has gone because of your emotional state. If it's easy for you to notice that the emotions is what is driving your perception, then you can call upon them and say, I'm feeling this way about this thing, but this is exactly what happened. Like, am I right in believing that this is the reality? or what is your perspective? Maybe not am I right, but like, what is your perspective? So then now you have someone else's perspective, and you're able to balance out how you are perceiving that situation. And then finally, we're looking at labeling, and labeling is creating labels either for yourself or for other people based on one situation, one interaction. And the reason labels are a distortion is because you cannot sum up the entirety of an individual based on one interaction that you had with them, right? So if someone said something mean to you, and then now you decide that they're a mean person and there's no room for them to redeem themselves, then you have arrived at that conclusion in a distorted way, because then maybe they were having a rough day and they came off a bit more aggressive than they usually do, right? But then if there's no room for someone to have a conversation about it, or to follow up and share the feelings, right? Then to arrive at the conclusion that this individual is mean, this individual is selfish. It could even be for yourself, right? Like maybe you're trying to learn something new that is a bit difficult and you're not getting it as easily as you thought you would. And then you start to label yourself as foolish or a failure. And these labels are dangerous, because then if we're berating ourselves constantly with these labels, then that means we're like chipping away at our self-esteem, and this can lead to the development of a negative self-concept. And with other people, if you're labeling other people, judging them, criticizing them, it means that the possibility of having a healthy relationship is quite small. There'll be a lot of misunderstanding, also underestimating individuals because you just assigned them one label and see them in one way. Yet the reality is that individuals are quite complex and diverse. So that marks the end of our 10 distortions. I'd be happy to hear if anything has jumped out at you in this video today. As always, the invitation is to go back into the past and review any situations that might have arisen as a result of engaging in these cognitive distortions. And also currently, right? Is there any situation or any individual that you're viewing through a distorted lens? And if so, what are some of the things that you're able to do now to help you get out of that distorted way of thinking? I had shared a worksheet on the group about diffusing, and that's essentially when we are in the thought, right? We are fused with the thought, and diffusing is coming out of the thought, creating a bit of distance between yourself and the thought. So you can look at the worksheet. Another strategy that you can use to tackle these distortions is journaling, because through journaling, you're able to go back through all your entries from objective standpoint and be able to see, okay, yeah, I've been feeling very negative about this situation or this person, yet I can see that there's more than one perspective to look at this particular person or this situation, or even myself. Yeah. So reframing is also something else that you can look into, and reframing essentially is trying to look at the same situation from a different angle. So now you're going into, so if it's positive, negative, and you've only been viewing from the negative, you're trying to look for more perspectives that are closer to neutral. And if you can, even look for the more positive aspects. Okay, so that's it from me today. I hope to hear from you. And until next time, ciao.